you, everyone. Lon and Rende for the music, and Lou for the daily word. Just seeing everyone feels so good to me today. I am just amazed that we are in the month of November. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. But here we are, we're on the ride, we're shooting into the holiday season. And and here in the US, this month of November, it always reminds me of the holiday of Thanksgiving. It's a time of memories and special parties and gatherings with family, and just lots of special things go on this time of year. And I really appreciated what I found in the very back of the book, How to Let God Help You, from our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, on this idea of Thanksgiving. She says there that thanksgiving and gratitude are qualities of the soul too little understood and exercised. Heaven and earth listen and respond to the soul that is quickened into praise and thanksgiving. And then she says this: a grateful, loving heart at the head of a house redeems it from discord and discontent, and ultimately changes the spears and swords of a nation into plowshares and pruning hooks. She does acknowledge that Thanksgiving is a time where we eat and drink a lot of stuff. But she suggests that we keep this spirit of Thanksgiving foremost in our minds and hearts. And I really appreciate the way she expands the idea of gratitude and thanksgiving, that yes, it blesses our homes, but it also blesses the larger community, where when we're in that frame of mind ourselves and we're living from that place. And I was interested to find in our Christian scriptures those same ideas mirrored. And it was from the Apostle Paul. He established a church at Corinth, and he had sent one letter to the church after establishing it there. And then there was a period of time where he just wasn't sure if they still liked him or not. There was some contention, there were some problems, and he just wasn't sure that they were going to stay in the Christian fold. But he got some news from one of his followers that they were very enthusiastic in Corinth about connecting with him again. And in the sense of gratitude and relief, he wrote this letter, the 2 Corinthians. And there, he encourages them in this way. He says, the one who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. And the one who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. And God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance, so that always, by having enough of everything, you may share abundantly in every good work. He was encouraging the people of Corinth, who were grateful for all the good things in their lives, to share those blessings with other parts of the Christian community that were sometimes struggling to get their needs met. It's a powerful message. But when we are getting our needs met, when we know that we're okay and we're going to be okay, it makes it possible for our human brains to even think about the abundance and the well-being of other people and the larger community. I know for myself, I had an experience recently that, I don't know, maybe some of you have had a similar thing happening, but I was just feeling, glad for all the positive, constructive things I get to do in my life, but it also felt like there were lots of them. You know what I mean? There's just a lot going on. And in the midst of this, I'm taking a new art history class, a condensed one that's usually 16 weeks and it's been squeezed into 8 weeks. Very exciting, you know. And it's about medieval art history. That's the period of time from when Christianity began until the Italian Renaissance. And during that period of time, there is a lot going on. It's very interesting, very, interesting aspects of church history, which has also been part of my ministerial studies. And yet, there was this book, an audio book, that my instructor said would complement what we were studying in class. And this book, it's called Lost to the West. Very interesting book about the earliest Christians and the things they faced in their physical, personal safety. And, the Roman Empire and the transition of power from one emperor to another that was often really bloody and traumatic and treacherous. And that, the Christian church being recognized, and then the Christian church being made the official religion, and the split between the Eastern and Western Roman Empire, and all this political intrigue, and struggles and power between the patriarchs of the church and the emperors, and who's really in charge here, and just kind of a wild ride, and so listening to this in audiobook form with a narrator who's very intense and fast-paced with what he was sharing, it was increasing my feeling of overwhelm. And I was losing sight of the things I feel grateful for in my life. And one day in my quiet time, I realized that usually the audiobooks I listen to, even though I'm very interested in this, the audiobooks I listen to are usually really light and uplifting. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just do an experiment today. Maybe today I'll listen to James Herriot, All Creatures Great and Small. And in doing that, laughing and having little tears of sweet emotion, it was amazing how quickly my frame of mind changed. I was able to, yes, show up for the life responsibilities, but also have that sense of gratitude that just is so expansive in mind and heart and in my life. And it's amazing to me how just the littlest things can make a huge difference in our frame of mind and our perspective in our daily lives that really open us up to this larger awareness of the world and the well-being of all people. I saw a really good story recently about some people who grew up in a small town in Connecticut. And, it was one of those little towns where there was a lot of industry. They were right there on the East Coast, and they had, a lot of agriculture, and there was a lot of trade with outside communities and other countries that moved through that community. And so naturally that meant jobs. Naturally, that meant workers were moving there, and those workers had families. And so that community grew. And there were two particular families that when they first connected with each other, they felt a closeness and just a larger, more expansive sense of themselves. And each of those families had a little boy. One was named Bill, and one was named Tony. And those little guys from the very beginning, they were just buddies, they were in it together and inseparable. And many days, Tony would find himself over at his buddy Bill's house. And Bill's little sister, Dottie, and her friends would be in the next room, peeking around the door and giggling at the older boys in the next room, and they just built so many memories growing up there in that little town together. And, they grew, life changed, Second World War came around, and those young guys went off to war. And when they were released from service in 1947 after the war, they found themselves all back in their hometown again. And New Year's Eve was coming up. And they were excited. They wanted to get together with friends and celebrate, the new year, ringing in the new year. And Tony didn't have a date. And his friend Bill said, well, you should invite my sister Dottie. And Tony was very happy about this. He had always had this warm place in his heart for Dottie, and she was really enthusiastic too. And Tony was careful because he didn't know how his brother Bill would react if he got too close. But they ran it past Dottie's father, and he did the sign of the cross and said, no way. Wasn't going to have any of that with his daughter. And they all continued to live their lives and married and had their own families. And time and age and all the experiences of life, they brought Tony to a place where he'd lost his wife, and he found himself sitting at home a lot. Yes, he had a loving, wonderful family, but he just went to a place of forgetting about the big picture of life. And then he had to go to the hospital. He had a knee surgery. There he was laying in the hospital bed, and one day, Dottie shows up with another mutual friend of theirs. And after they left him that day at the hospital, he felt completely different. He felt like his world had just opened up again. And he wanted more of that. He called his daughter and he asked for her advice. And she says, well, Dad, we all loved Dottie. The families had stayed in contact all those years. And she said to her dad, what have you got to lose? Well, 20 years later, and Tony and Dottie are still dating. They're in their 90s now. They had both sunk into very sad places. But sharing the joys, sharing the gratitudes of life, it's multiplied theirs to where now they're reaching out to other people and connecting with other people in the community. In the midst of all that we've all gone through in the last year and a half, with all the things that come with advancing age, they're still just mostly grateful. Gratitude. There's so many things to be grateful for in our lives. Good food on Thanksgiving Day, our families, our prosperity, and so many personal blessings. One of the things I'm also grateful for, and I find myself really tuning into, is seeing us making progress on some things that from our collective past we wish had not happened the way they had. I don't know if there's any way to be grateful for some of the things that we have regrets about, but when we can begin to resolve and reconcile the effects of those times, that's a big gratitude. I was really touched by the story of a couple recently who their names were Charles and Willa. And, they were hard workers and they really wanted a better life for themselves and their families. And they saved their money. And they pulled together enough money to buy a lot in Manhattan Beach, California. And they were able to buy a few more lots. And they created their dream business. It was a beach resort. And they were so happy to be able to do this. They built a lodge, there was a dining hall, there was a dance hall. It was a place of welcoming and happiness that they were committed to provide to people who had been excluded from other beaches in California because of racial segregation. And it was a happy place. And as, in the 1920s, as the stock market was taking off and, property values were shooting up because everyone was moving to Los Angeles County, they were becoming more prosperous because of owning that land too. And at the same time as that was going on, other tensions within the community were building more and more and more. It was a time when all the rest of Manhattan Beach, basically, besides where they were, was not integrated. And their neighbors started getting really disgruntled at their success and their prosperity. And they started putting up signs to misdirect people so they'd have to walk an extra half mile to get to the resort. They put up signs that said no trespassing. They hired big burly security guards to intimidate people to try to keep them from going in there. And and when that didn't get the effect they wanted, the Ku Klux Klan got involved. There were threats. Tires were slashed. Arson was attempted. All kinds of things to keep Willa and Charles from offering this service to the larger community. And when all that didn't work, when all that didn't stop them from living their dream, the city council decided to get involved. And they used eminent domain proceedings to take the property away from Charles and Willa. They said it was a public necessity to have a park. And Willa and Charles Bruce fought that for years in court. They spent so much time and money and energy, and eventually they were forced out, getting a much lower price for that property than they should have. They tried to buy other property other places. They tried to reestablish what they had lost there, but they were blocked at every turn. They eventually moved into the city of Los Angeles and worked as laborers. But they were both gone within 5 years. It was devastating for them with their personal losses. But one of the things that was hardest for them, that they were most excited about, was for their families, to leave a legacy of prosperity and success and quality of life. And that was the hardest loss for them of all. Their families never forgot that message. It was decades before the city of Manhattan Beach actually opened a park. And they only did that because they were afraid of getting sued to get the land back. And after some more decades, they ended up transferring it to the state of California and the county of Los Angeles, with restrictions on future transfers. But the family never forgot. And times have changed. And people are thinking, with the great abundance that we have in this state, in that county, that things needed to be set right. And so that's what's happening. Some of you may have read that Bruce's Beach is being restored to the descendants of their family. The bill was passed through our California legislature. Our governor signed it. And by the end of this year, the Bruce family will again own the property that Willa and Charles bought so many years before. generational wealth. When we have great abundance in our lives, when we just cannot stop with the list of blessings because of our ancestry and our efforts based on that good, we can't help but want that for other people, especially when it sets right the wrongs of the past. I'm so grateful that in walking through this time, this month, these holidays, this year, that each one of us takes the time to make those little changes we need to make to really tune in to that spirit of thanksgiving. And as Myrtle and the Apostle Paul encouraged us to do, let those blessings multiply our collective good. Because in this way, the blessings really flow. So glad to be remembering this with all of you. So grateful for each and every one and the spirit of thanksgiving we bring. Bless you, friend. And we get to prepare for our time of meditation. So if you'd find a way to be comfortable right where you are, let yourself really relax. Close your eyes if you wish. Let yourself really rest. Resting your eyes, your shoulders, your arms and your hands. Maybe moving them around a tiny bit, just to be aware, the relax when you let them be still again. You might even feel that sense of rest and relaxation move down from the top of our head, down our spine, through our torso. Feel that relax spread across our lower back. Relaxing, gently releasing anything that no longer serves. We feel that relax moving down through every part of our body, down into our legs and knees and lower leg, our ankles and our feet. Relaxed. The features of our face, from the top of our head right down to our forehead, our temples, the area around our eyes, the bridge of our nose, feeling it spread and relax into our cheekbones and down to our jaw, and the area in and around our mouth. Really relaxing right here, right now. Relaxing because we feel this support. The support beneath us. The support among us. Support all around. And that divine support deep down within each and every one of us. every part of our mind, body, and spirit supported, all providing presence and power. And we relax back into it now. We let it bless and restore our bodies. We let it uplift our minds. And we let it open our hearts as we rest, grateful, grateful for these abundant blessings in the silence. One with God, one with each other, one with all creation. We are grateful. We count our blessings today. We count our blessings. We see what God has done. Can't help but allow in these ideas of abundance, generosity, and of goodness that are the theme of this month. We know in the deepest part of our hearts and minds that this good multiplies right here and right now. Wherever we've been, whatever we've known or seen along the way, that it has brought us to this place of connection, this place of knowing, this place of being uplifted together and looking out from here as the beloved in whom God is well pleased. We know that the best is yet to come for us and for all. And I do invite you to bring to mind now any you wish for us to join you in prayer today. Any people, any circumstances, any communities. And if you wish to say their names aloud, or hold them in your hearts, I invite you to do that now. We are grateful. The abundant blessings are now flowing forth, meeting every need, want, and desire, healing, restoring, resolving, lifting us all together and blessing in the most gentle ways. And for all this good, we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen.